Over the years, the American Jewish community we've kind of created our own holiday on top of a non-Jewish holiday. I'm, of course, talking about Jewish Christmas that I referenced earlier. Going to the movies or eating Chinese food, maybe volunteering at a homeless shelter, or attending a holiday drive-through, a light show, because you know you're going to be the only ones there, and you're going to get a private viewing. And then there's another sacred tradition, which I'm guilty of performing a little too enthusiastically, of pointing out every single Christmas song that was written by a Jew. And there are a lot. Granted, I do that in any, movies, TV shows, sports. I like to point out that person's a Jew. But there are a lot of them. White Christmas, Silver Bells, Let It Snow, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, Winter Wonderland, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, and that is just naming a few. As singer and pianist Michael Feinstein, often called the ambassador of the Great American Songbook, has explained, Jews flocked to the music industry in the early 20th century when many of these songs were written, because it was one of the rare industries where Jews did not face rampant anti-Semitism. It wasn't so egregious. And so the music industry became a space of possibility. You might notice something else about these songs. Most of them, if not all of them, are not explicitly religious. They're not really about Christmas theology at all. Instead, they're about winter and nostalgia, togetherness, and national celebration. Rabbi Ken Cantor of Hebrew Union College explains that this embrace of Christmas music functioned both as assimilation into America's dominant Christian culture and as a form of patriotism. These songs helped turn Christmas into a broadly American holiday, almost a civic celebration. For Jewish composers, this was a way of carving out space in American culture, not only as Jews, but as Americans. And being a minority within a majority culture has always posed challenges for the Jewish community. Sometimes those challenges appear as open anti-Semitism, but more often, they show up as something quieter and harder to name, the feeling that we just don't quite belong. And many of us feel that most acutely during the Christmas season. Even growing up in New Jersey in a town with a large Jewish population, I remember that sense of isolation. My mom used to love to tell the story of my sister visiting the doctor's office around Christmas time when this poor receptionist made the fatal error of asking my sister what Santa had brought her for Christmas this year. "Nothing," she replied indignantly, "we're Jewish," and sauntered off. And that's why there's something so fascinating and honestly beautiful about Jewish composers in the early 20th century not only participating in America's Christmas culture, but actively shaping it. They didn't just enter the conversation, they helped define it. I had long known about the disproportionate number of Jewish composers behind Christmas music, but there's one story I learned recently that has really stayed with me. So last year, Cantor Wadnitsky led a learning session for JAM, our Jewish young adult group, where she explored the Jewish roots of Christmas songs. And she shared the deeper and a little bit darker story behind Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Rudolph was created in 1939 by Robert L. May, a Jewish copywriter for Montgomery Ward. May based Rudolph's story, an outsider mocked for a physical difference, on his own childhood experiences as a Jewish kid who didn't quite fit in, especially because of his prominent nose. He later convinced his brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, to set the poem to music, and behold, a Christmas classic was born. When I heard this, I was floored. I knew the song, obviously, it was ubiquitous. I sang it in my public school choir as a child. But to learn that it was written by Jews, rooted in the Jewish experience and embedded within the very cultural framework that had so often marginalized Jews, was fascinating. Rudolph was a way of finding space in America while also offering a quiet critique, a reminder that difference is not a weakness, but a strength. Questions of identity and belonging are sticky and complicated for any minority community. And for Jews, this struggle isn't unique to America. It's a defining feature of the diaspora experience. In every place that we've lived, in every time where we have lived, in Babylonia, in Greece, in Spain, in Eastern Europe, in Latin America, Iraq, South Africa, we've wrestled with how to be part of the broader culture without losing a sense of who we are. And we see this tension as early as the Torah itself. Right now, we are deep in the Joseph story. And Joseph is this figure who perfectly embodies this tension. He was rejected by his own family, by his own brothers, expelled from his home, sent to a foreign land, and then rises to power in that foreign land. He adopts Egyptian dress, an Egyptian name, Egyptian customs. He marries an Egyptian woman. In many ways, he completely sheds his past. And honestly, who could blame him? But when he finally encounters his brothers, he's overwhelmed with emotion. Again and again, he leaves the room to weep. He could have sent the brothers away. They didn't recognize him. He could have stayed hidden. But at his core, he was still Joseph, son of Israel. We watch him struggle to reconcile who he has been with who he has become, to hold both identities at once and to carve out a future for himself, his family, and his people, and the nation of Egypt. As Jews in America today, we wrestle with the same questions. What does it mean to be American? What parts of American culture do we adopt, and what do we risk losing along the way? How do we embrace what makes us different while still claiming our place in a country that is undeniably our home? That tension between fitting in and standing out is not a failure of identity. It's the sacred work of Jewish life in the diaspora, and it has always been a part of our story. So just as Santa's sleigh is guided through the fog by Rudolph's glowing nose, perhaps we too can be guided by our unlikely red-nosed teacher. Because the path forward lies not in hiding what makes us different, nor in abandoning the culture around us, but in showing up fully with curiosity and open-mindedness, participating in American life as our whole, authentic, Jewish American selves. So too, Joseph does not survive Egypt by disappearing into it, nor by standing wholly apart from it. He rises to power within Egyptian society, learning its language, adopting its customs, shaping its culture, and in doing so, he quite literally saves Egypt from destruction. Yet even as he becomes an Egyptian leader, he never stops being a member of Bnei Yisrael, a child of Israel. His strength comes precisely from holding both of those truths at once. Rudolph and Joseph, both of them, remind us that it is in that honest exchange, that back and forth between cultures, that difference becomes illumination rather than liability. When we bring all of who we are, the myriad of identities that we carry, into the shared story, we don't just find our place. We help light the way forward for everyone. Shabbat Shalom and happy holidays.